Welcome to MAGICademy podcast. Today our guest is Kevin.
Yeah.
He is the chief learning strategist and head of Synthesia Academy. So Synthesia is a very innovative and interesting company that is pioneering all the technologies to create a digital twin of us. So the digital duplicates of us can communicate, can deliver training whenever we're not available. And we also explored the possibility of human coach versus a AI powered digital twin coach, and what's the promises, what are some limitations, and we also explored the magic of Kevin. So stay tuned. Let's begin. Hello, Kevin. Great to have you at the MAGICademy podcast.
Thanks for having me, Gianni. It's great to be here.
Excellent. So tell us, what is Synthesia and what is Synthesia doing currently?
Sure. So Synthesia is on a mission to help everyone to be able to create high quality video. So the problem that we're trying to solve is that if you were to make a video now, much like we are at this moment, you have to get out your camera, you have to write out a script, you have to be on camera, and you have to deliver things in one or two takes. Then you have to edit it, and if you want to make that high quality video, you have to go to a studio, rent camera and equipment. Well, we're saying now with the power of generative AI, you can stop doing all that. And if you can type in a script into a text box and you can make a slide deck, then you can create a polished studio looking video with AI avatars. So we take the cameras out of the equation, the microphones out of the equation, the editing, and we just say, hey, let AI take care of the rest. We'll get you to something that looks good, and everyone can do it from the power of their browser.
Excellent. And you talked about the concept of digital twin. Can you tell us a little bit more about what exactly do you mean by that?
Sure. So a digital twins are just much like AI, is nothing that new, but really a digital twin is whenever you have kind of a live representation of data that's changing in real time. So if you think about Google Maps is a version of a digital twin where you're able to see your location based off of how as it's changing on a map. And so a digital twin is anytime that you have that real-time feedback of or real-time data that's being visualized in some sort of way.
Excellent. So how would you connect the digital twin between kind of like a map like a digital twin to a human like digital twin? Is there a fundamental difference, or is that like fundamentally the same thing?
So I think I think it's a little bit different. I think what's changed now is that if you think about, let's take, for example, large language models, you're able to have a conversation essentially with data. And it's arguable whether or not that data is hooked up to something live, and that's debatable whether that's an actual digital twin or not, but it's a representation of data and you're able to have a conversation with it. I think what changes now that we have AI avatars is that you can now put a face and a voice that to that conversation. I think as we're experiencing now with the most recent iteration of GPT-4 is now you're able to speak with information much like you are having a conversation. So you say something to GPT-4, and then it talks back to you, and you're able to have that conversation. I think what I'm excited about with generative AI and what we're doing at Synthesia is that now soon you'll be able to have a human representation to that voice and to that information. So you'll actually be able to have conversations with data in the form of a real person, or really a synthetic person.
Excellent. So can you share with us stories about how exactly people are using the Synthesia digital twin in their video trainings in all sorts of contexts? Because a lot of our audiences are learning development professionals. Any sort of like stories that you can share on how people use that? happy stories, exciting stories,
Sure.
interesting
So
stories?
yeah, so a lot of folks who use the AI avatars and the AI video platform is that they create a lot of training content. Somewhere where the AI avatars really help folks save time is if you're creating video that's informational or instructional in nature. So if you think about any sort of compliance training or any sort of maybe sales training, that's where it's perfect for taking information that's maybe in slide decks or PDFs or text and turning that into something much more engaging that's video. So in the past, in order to create this video, a lot of these folks who are instructional designers or who work in learning and development, they were having to record themselves on video. So meaning they were taking their phones and they were recording themselves, or they were taking the FaceTime camera on their laptops, and they were having to be the subjects on video. And so you can imagine a lot of these folks are, one, not visual designers. So the idea of creating something that looks of professional quality is not an option for them. And then also there's the fact that it takes a lot of effort and skill to be on camera, meaning some people are born with it, some people, but most of us are not. And so, for example, I had to learn how to deliver a script and memorize that and present to a camera lens as opposed to just reading something off of a piece of paper. And so there are skills that these folks don't have, or that is very difficult for them to creating video essentially is very difficult for them to do. And so they're able to create these training videos without having to do multiple takes. They're just copying and pasting their script in, they're moving a few things around in the canvas, and they're able to generate that video very quickly. So a lot of the use cases that we're seeing are for instructional and informational content. I think where this also gets interesting is we have a lot of folks who use us for internal communications. So if you think about a large company or a business, there's a lot of information that needs to get to the right people in the right format at the right time. And one thing that we know is that 75% of employees prefer to watch a video rather than read text by itself. So if you were to receive a new notification about, hey, we're switching to this new HR platform at work, you'd probably much more like to see a video rather than just read an email, because we get thousands of emails per day. And so it's anywhere where you kind of want that engagement factor. You want somebody really paying attention, and video is just a much more visual, engaging format than text alone. And so that's where we see the majority of people using Synthesia and AI videos, internal communications right now, and instructional and informational content in training and learning and development.
Ah, that got me interested. Have people measured the kind of people's reactions or responses after watching like Synthesia synthetic videos? Do you have stories to share about that?
Sure.
Do people
Mhm.
think, can people tell the difference? Can people tell, oh, this is Synthesia kind of style, this is like real Kevin style? So can people really tell the difference?
I think so. The short answer to that is right now, yes. I mean, given the state of the technology, the avatars, and including my avatar, is
Mm.
not able to deliver a show-stopping performance. So any content that is emotional in nature is probably not going to be the best fit for an AI avatar. And so if you're delivering informational or instructional content, that's where we see is this nice sweet spot where you're not expecting any sort of really big interaction with the subject on camera or performance. Instead, you're looking to them to deliver information or to lead an exercise. I think one thing that I'm excited about is we have a couple of research projects that are being done in universities and colleges where professors have found professors who use us, they're using us in the context they want to see, if I deliver weekly announcements, or
Mm.
I deliver um, let's say a course agenda or curriculum to my students on paper, or if I deliver that in a video that I've recorded with my live self versus a synthetic version of myself, so an AI avatar of that professor saying the same information, they found that there is no difference or between the two, the live or the synthetic version. But they've also found that in cases where maybe if the students notice that it is an AI avatar, they're much more engaged with the content because they're intrigued by the use of an AI avatar. So that's to say it's not going to completely replace human performance, but right now it's something that is definitely seen as a little bit different, but also not inexcusable. Meaning people actually are interested in seeing these AI avatars out in the world at the moment.
Excellent, excellent. Let's pivot the conversation a little bit. We talked about using the digital twin to deliver information in terms of training. That got me thinking, can they actually train people? Can we turn the AI digital twin into a coach per se? And yeah.
Well, something that's very interesting about, if you're familiar with the learning world, there's what's called the Two Sigma problem, where it's really saying that uh, people make the most gains when they're being individually tutored by someone who has a bit more expertise. And essentially, as you go from maybe classroom instruction to tutoring, the gains that you can make, as you can imagine, with that one-on-one attention are so much greater than if you were trying to scale instruction. And so in the past, we've solved this that's been a very human problem to solve, meaning you can only have one human for another human. But what's very interesting about large language models, and something that we're seeing, is that they actually serve in the function of a scaled tutor very usefully. So two good examples to call out. One is Conmigo. So Khan Academy, if you're familiar with them, they teach K through 12. They teach school subjects through video and through courses. That's Khan Academy. But then Conmigo is the GPT-enabled feature in the product where students can actually ask questions and be tutored in real time by the AI. And you'll find that the large language models serve very well at being coaches for very fundamental and basic information. The other product to call out is Duolingo. So if you're familiar with the language app where it teaches you different languages, they have a similar similar feature in their product where Duolingo can tutor an individual student. So it's meeting individual people where they are at and it's able to hone in on the specific skill that they're working on. Now, where this gets interesting when we start to think about AI avatars is that, again, we're thinking about applying a human model or a human face to these large language models. So if the large language models are good at coaching and providing feedback to people on an individual basis, we can start to get into more of a human-to-human interaction when we start to put an AI avatar on top of that large language model. And so I'm working with a couple of folks right now who are developing this idea of the digital human coach. And a context that you might find this in is, let's say you're working on public speaking and delivery you're speaking to an audience, or perhaps you're in a job interview and you want to practice this scenario over and over again. And the digital coach, you might signal to the digital coach, hey, in particular, I'm working on framing my story. I want to tell the story of my resume in 2 to 3 minutes, and I want to deliver it in a professional way. What you can do is you can you can talk to the AI model that's sitting on a web app or on your computer. And this is often done through apps like Storyfile or Video Ask, where you no longer have to type in what you need to in order to interact with the AI chatbot, but instead you could use your voice and you can speak directly to the AI video chatbot. And based off of what it's saying in your script and the custom instructions that tell it what it's specifically looking for, it's able to listen to what you say and then give you feedback in real time. And I think this is important because there are going to be scenarios where an AI digital coach is going to be a great fit, and there's going to be places where the human coach is still going to be the best fit. And I think that you can break these down along lines of where you need a human touch or where that emotion starts to come in. If I'm working on a specific skill of, let's say, synthesizing my resume into a 2 to 3 minute story, I think that the AI digital coach is going to excel. It's going to be able to listen to my story 1,000 times, hear me deliver that, and it's never going to get impatient with me. It's never going to get tired. It's never going to get hungry. It's just going to keep listening to me and say, how close or far are you from the ideal delivery of these skills, and how soon can I get you there? Versus where a human is going to be very good is in terms of judging performance, meaning, what am I doing with my hands? How is my voice changing as I tell my story? How am I moving around a stage, or how am I standing still? That's where you're still going to need the human to be involved as part of a coach. But what we can offer people, and the potential that I get excited about, is with AI coaches, we're able to deliver a baseline set of skills and tutoring to everyone in ways that it was only limited to just a few folks who had access to those resources before.
Excellent. And that gets me interesting because a lot of our audiences are learning and development leaders. And in terms of like manager training or leadership training, or even, we're talking about people who submit their resume. How about the other end? How about the managers who are reviewing the resume? Can the AI actually coach a manager to better, manage or to better conduct candidate interviews? Any stories to share on that part also?
To be honest, I don't have that much experience on that front. I think when applying an AI tool to these opportunities, I think where the value is being able to read and comb through large amounts of data and not necessarily provide insights, but provide a starting place for the human to look. So if you think about it, we are limited. We as humans have a limited capacity to hold information in our heads. So if I have a database of 1,000 employees, if I have an employee database with 1,000 employees, me, Kevin, myself, am not able to comb through that information if I'm looking for someone who has a set of skills for a particular job that I'm looking to fill within the company. But with AI, I can now use conversational language to talk to that database and say, hey, I'm looking for someone with these set of skills. Could you help me identify candidates along these different parameters? And you could work with the AI in an iterative way to get it closer to the answer you're looking for. I think there's also a lot that can be done, a lot of products that are being released now that analyze conversations. So if you're able to generate a transcript of a conversation, you're now able to use different AI tools to assess and look for different skills that are being demonstrated or behaviors that are being demonstrated within that transcript to say, hey, this is what we were supposed to be looking for. There were 100 instances where you mentioned X skill. This is what you can do next time. So the potential is already, in present day tools for AI to help with coaching with different professional skills. It's just a matter of making sure, understanding that, when you buy an AI tool like this, what are the limitations of that tool? What is it actually doing? How is it actually assessing and providing insights to the task that you're giving it?
Excellent. So now let's take a look at kind of the different kind of resources that the people need. You mentioned about Synthesia Academy. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that can actually help people who are piloting the field of AI digital twin and AI coaches?
Sure. So I think the hardest thing for people to understand when you have a tool that makes video simple is that it's really difficult it can be very difficult to actually get used to video. I think as everyday people, we're used to watching a lot of video, but we ourselves are not creators. And so something that I saw along with a couple of my other colleagues is that we have a product that's very easy to use in terms of being able to create video. You type in what you need to type, you select an avatar, and then you hit generate video, and we can even provide templates to make that video look even better. But when you're moving from something like a 50-page handbook PDF into a video, I think we should know that that information needs to be restructured and reformatted and take on a new form when it is put into video. So a lot of what we do at Synthesia Academy is teach people, especially those who are developing training content, we teach them how to make a good video, meaning how do you take this idea and how do you write a hook so that you can engage your audience with the opening lines of your video script? How do you include a call to action so that at the end of your video, you're driving a next step or new behavior so that you can use your video to drive performance? It's these small things that help people focus their idea into a video so that when they create it, it's something that's actually useful as opposed to just generating lots and lots of terrible videos. And so what we have is a video essential certification that's free and that people can take to help them learn what are the essential elements of creating a useful video.
Excellent. I think I may need to take one and further improve my
For
podcast.
sure. For sure.
Excellent. All right. So now let's kind of pivot a little bit. We talked about, the business side of Synthesia and, the digital twin, the coaches, the potentials. Now let's talk about you as Kevin. One day I was looking at your video and you're doing like dance on the treadmill, and you're playing this
Yes.
music, and I was like dancing with the music as well. So it's very like contagious. Your energy is very contagious.
Thank you.
So that gets me curious. What did you enjoy doing when you were a little kid? Is there any connections of what you were doing? The passion that you exude.
Sure. I think something that I've always loved doing is performing. I didn't necessarily enjoy it when I was little, but I was one of those 4-year-old kids that they give an instrument to. I played the cello for 15 years. And so music and performance, I think, is what drives my happiness. But I think what I enjoyed in particular is I have a Filipino background, and a lot of my family is also very much into performance. If you can imagine a family barbecue, I can imagine my cousins, just singing karaoke, but they are literally crying as they are singing, something emotional like "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina" or something like that to all my uncles and aunts. And so I come from a background of performers. And I think at the end of the day, that is, I think there's this element of performance where it's the ultimate audience or customer-oriented action where I really just want whoever is watching, or I want whoever's listening to be entertained in some way. And so I don't think that I entertained anybody by talking about AI avatars just a little bit ago.
Believe me,
But,
yes, you do.
well, thank
The
you.
curiosity part, yes.
Yeah, so maybe it's always, there should be some, I want to create experiences that are engaging or fun or useful for whoever is watching or listening. And so I think, when I was little, it was, dancing for family and friends. And now that I'm maybe arguably grown up, I think it's performance in another light, where I'm looking for opportunities to bring joy to the work that I'm doing.
Excellent. Any sort of challenges that you have to overcome that kind of shaped Kevin as who Kevin is right now, along with the joy?
Yeah, especially tying to the joy. I think the biggest challenge I've had to overcome is there's an idea of who we are as professionals. And I think people have a very limited view, especially me coming from the US. A lot of US work culture has ideas of what it means to be a professional at work. And so in my past life as a teacher, one of the first bits of feedback was that I need to walk more urgently in the hallways because apparently I was dancing down the hallways. A bit of feedback that I had moving from the K-12 space into the corporate learning world, I remember distinctly I had this piece of feedback from somebody who, at that time, she was the global head of staff and talent development at JP Morgan, an amazing instructor that I had in grad school who gave me the advice that I should not smile when I'm in the boardroom. And so, as you can imagine, I have, my natural energy and joy. How does this mesh with the corporate world? And so I think over time, I've learned that that's going to be a challenge for me about how do you, depending on who you are, you can't necessarily change the constraints of who you're expected to be in the professional world. But I have also noticed that it's about the reason that we act, that people feel like we have to act this way is maybe it's correct or incorrect, but it's about building trust. And so they have to see someone that they feel comfortable with in order for them to trust the ideas or work with people, especially when you get into the corporate space. I think overcoming that challenge has come from just making sure that those who I'm working with understand the body of work that I have done and the skills that I can deliver on. And I think at this point in my career, I've shown that a little bit with some of the projects that I've worked on and the companies that I've worked with and the positions that I've had, where now I can put a video on LinkedIn of me dancing in a volumetric capture studio to I Will Survive. And I think I'm no longer worried about not smiling in a conference room or not walking urgently enough in the hallways. I do walk a little bit faster than I did back then, but I try to smile as often as possible.
Excellent. So do you think the kind of the joy is your magic? So what do you think is your magic then? Going along this journey.
Sure. I think it's about building I think it's about building the workplace that and the life that you want to live. I think that everybody to some extent wants to go to a workplace or they want to have experiences that are joyful and energetic. And I think it takes those of us who are willing to maybe take that risk and inject a bit of energy into those spaces. I think it's up to us to help kind of shepherd everybody along. Because I think that if you're just working to work or you're just living and not really experiencing that type of joy, then maybe you're not living as much of a fulfilled life. So I try to open that space for other people to say, hey, it's okay to bring your full self, but also there's a way to do that. There's a way to achieve your goals as well. It's not going to be 100% fun all the time. However, there is a space to bring yourself and what you value and enjoy to the work that you do.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kevin, for sharing your stories, your magic, and the stories of Digital
Sure.
Twin, of Synthesia, the Academy. Anything else that you wanted to conclude the conversation? Anything else you wanted to speak to our audience?
Sure. I think there's just because we were talking about AI tools, I think especially, as there are now thousands and thousands of AI tools, I always want to make sure that people don't get overwhelmed. And I think that the last bit of advice I have is when you look at AI tools, you should be able to, before you select ones that you work with, you should have a problem that you're trying to solve. In the case of Synthesia, it's trying to cut down the production time, effort, and cost of creating video. And so that's why you would use AI video. But there are a lot of AI tools that promise the world and promise that they can do everything. So first and foremost, you should understand that you must have a problem to solve and apply the AI tool next. And then the second part of that is there can be unintended consequences of not knowing what AI tools you should use to solve your problem. Where with AI, you can either enhance the human solution to a problem, or you can exacerbate or make worse the human part of the problem. Meaning, when you apply AI to the work that you do, it either will make everything exponentially better or it can make it exponentially worse. So you should always understand what problem you have, understand what the tool that you're looking at can actually do to solve the problem, and then if you can, experiment with it, play with it first before you really implement it into your daily life and work. So that's just the big takeaway that I have is don't get overwhelmed by these tools. Instead, start with what your problems are first, and that'll help you navigate this new age and space that we're in.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kevin, for sharing your time. And I hope our audience are having a great time following our conversations. And happy to have you. And I look forward to seeing more development innovations coming from Synthesia and more joyful videos coming from Kevin.
Sure thing.
Thank you
Absolutely,
very much.
Gianni. And thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.